Sup guys, and welcome back to Cloud of Imagination. This is Jess. So for this week's video, considering Avengers Infinity War is pretty much right around the corner. As I'm recording this, I think we're like 9 days away, but from Sunday, at least in the UK, it'll be out like this coming Thursday, so oh my god, that is really close. So I thought for this week I'd do like a little top 10 list of like my favourite MCU Avengers. As I'm counting down my Avengers, these are the ones that have kind of only been introduced in the MCU so far. No doubt this list is going to change because my personal favourite Avenger from the comics hasn't been introduced in the MCU yet. That may change come Infinity War. I have my fingers crossed for a potential Captain Marvel end credit scene. So I thought it'd be fun to do something like this. I guess technically not everybody on this list is technically an Avenger yet. They're gonna be Avengers, they're iconic Avengers, so I'm gonna include them on this list. I think the ordering of this list tends to change a lot. This isn't necessarily me ranking them, because I think like especially like the top 3 or 4 are like my favourite characters. I'll say top 5 really are my favourite heroes in the MCU anyway. For today, this is the order I'm just gonna go for. So I'm just going to jump in, and this might just be a little short video this week. I'm not going to go into too many details of each of the characters. I might just say why I like them and different aspects about them that I find interesting. I thought it'd probably be better to do Avengers because if I included every single character in the MCU, like even ones that aren't Avengers but are supporting characters of other things or like Guardians, we would be here all day and this list would have been much harder to make. We're just going to jump in and do a top 10 list of my favourite MCU Avengers. At number 10, we have the Winter Soldier, aka James Bucky Barnes. I really like Bucky. He's a great character, and Captain America's trilogy is probably my favourite MCU trilogy out of the big 3, out of like Iron Man and Thor. I really have loved all 3 of his films, they're really good. Bucky is such an interesting character because he goes from, I mean, he's always going to be Cap's best friend, even though he's got Sam as well, but there's so much inner conflict within him which make him very interesting, particularly because he got brainwashed by Hydra and became the Winter Soldier. And probably one of the big reasons it's on this list is Winter Soldier was one of my favourite Marvel films, and that film was so damn solid and so damn good. He's great as a villain and he's great as a good guy, as an ally as well. He's a fun character and I'm interested to see what they do in Infinity War. At number 9, we have Spider-Man. I know technically he's not an Avenger yet, but I had to include him on this list because Spidey, as much as I think a lot of people have been getting tired of them constantly rebooting him, what can I say about Spidey? He's a hero of my childhood. He's probably a hero of a lot of people's childhoods. Because I think everyone's kind of had their era of Spider-Man that they grew up with when they were a kid. Whether it's now the more recent stuff for the really young kids, or whether it's like me with the Raimi trilogy when they were quite young, or like some of the 90s cartoons and stuff, or just old school comic books. He's a fun character and I can't wait to see what they do with him in Infinity War, and Tom Holland did such a fantastic job. I really did enjoy Spider-Man Homecoming. I think he plays a really good Peter Parker as well as Spider-Man, and he's kind of captured him so well. At number 8, I put Falcon. Doing this list was a bit tricky, but I had to include Falcon on this list because he's a fun character and Anthony Mackie does a fantastic performance, and he's great as kind of another right-hand man to Captain America. It's kind of almost like Bucky and Falcon are Captain America's like left and right-hand men. They're the guys you can really trust. And Falcon's a lot of fun. I really loved what they've done with him, and I really loved kind of that they did the hints of Red Wing, even though in the comics it probably would have been too cheesy to give him an actual Falcon. So they made him a little robotic one and he called it Red Wing, and that was really fun. I just love his loyalty to Cap, and his suit is fantastic. I mean, this pop is gorgeous. I actually got this recently. I thought, fuck it, I'm going to include Funko Pops in my video. But I really love Sam. He's a really great character, and I hope after the next 2 Avengers films we still get to keep him around for a while. I can't wait to see where he goes in Infinity War and he's a lot of fun, and this Funko Pop is gorgeous. At number 7, he's probably lower down on my list than he would be on other people's, and that's not because I don't love the character, I really do. So I put at number 7, Iron Man. Iron Man, aka Tony Stark, is a really great character. I think maybe what sours him a bit is that I wasn't completely happy with Iron Man 3, but what I did like was how they got into his psyche a bit more, like how he was dealing with some of the PTSD with some of the stuff that happened to it in the Avengers, and how they accurately portrayed like a full-on anxiety attack, and delving more into his psyche and more into Tony Stark. And I liked the stuff of him doing things without his suit and showcasing how smart he was and that he could deal with things and he didn't need to rely on his armor. That was the stuff that I liked on Iron Man 3, but I think because of the Mandarin twist, it has maybe soured my thought of the character as an individual a bit, so maybe that's why he's a bit lower down on this list. Tony Stark is a great character. He is essentially who kicked off the MCU, and I think before I watched Avengers I was only really interested in the Iron Man films. So he's a hero I really love. He's funny, he can bring that vulnerability because there's a lot of vulnerability to him, and that is so interesting to explore. And kind of seeing him kind of maybe become a bit of a surrogate father figure to Spider-Man was really interesting in Homecoming. I had to put him on this list somewhere. I wasn't sure where I was going to put him. As I said, this list have probably changes a lot, but Iron Man was the dude who got me interested in the MCU in the first place. I've got to include kind of the godfather of Marvel on this list. Lightens probably have changed now, so I'm just going to fucking deal with it. At number 6, I put the Wasp, aka Hope Van Dyne, or Janet Van Dyne, because I guess technically Janet was part of the original old school Avengers initiative that Fury put forward. Even though technically I don't think Wasp has been headlined as an Avenger quite yet, I wanted to include her anyway because she's one of my favourite Marvel heroes. I got introduced to her in Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and her MCU counterpart, whether it's Janet or right now it's Hope, who will probably continue to take on the Wasp mantle. I really like this Hope incarnation, and I can't wait to see her in Ant-Man and the Wasp. I hope we get to see some of her in Infinity War, but something tells me that we're not going to see much of her till the next Avengers film. Really love her character. I loved her in Ant-Man. She was probably one of my favourite parts of Ant-Man. That's probably why I'm really looking forward to Ant-Man and the Wasp, because of her. She's just kick-ass, and I loved all the training that she did with Scott. That tease that they put at the end of Ant-Man with her looking at the Wasp suit got me super excited, and then I've watched the trailers and I'm like, yeah, I can't wait. So I thought, I'm going to include her, fuck it, I'm going to include her as an Avenger because she is great. At number 5, I put Scarlet Witch, aka Wanda Maximoff. Such a great character. I was really happy when she was introduced in Age of Ultron, and I love the conflict within her. Particularly, she had some of the best scenes in Civil War, where a lot of the world wasn't sure what to do with her and viewed her as a monster. I think even she at times viewed herself as a monster, and I was like, no girl, you're not. You made a mistake. That inner conflict within her as well was particularly interesting. I love her powers, I really do. And I know in the comics she's one of the most powerful mutants in the world. But of course in the film she isn't a mutant. She was an experiment, but her powers kind of got birthed from an Infinity Stone. So who knows the amount of power that we could see her unleash in Infinity War. That could be insane, and I really can't wait to see where they go with her. And I'm curious to see what they do with the iconic Scarlet Witch and Vision romance from the comics. And I really hope that she does survive, because I want to see them delve deeper into her. I know at the moment there may still be a rights issue, because I think I'd heard that Disney had bought Fox, but then it's still kind of all up in the air, so I don't know what's happening. But of course they can't really completely delve into her origins because of rights and things, but they could do more with her. She's such an interesting character and I really like her. Wanda is my girl, I love her to bits, and she didn't deserve that heartbreak in Age of Ultron with killing Quicksilver off. I didn't necessarily agree with that, just to introduce a character just to kill them off. She's really come a long way and kind of stepped into her own to become a hero, starting out as kind of a villain, but becoming a hero. I really liked that. At number 4, I put my boy Hawkeye, aka Clint Barton. I had to put Hawkeye on this list. He's one of my favourite heroes. I love Jeremy Renner as well, and he's one of the characters out of like a lot of the Avengers where I really want to read his comics, because I love how funny he is, but I also love like exploring who he is. I know they kind of changed it up in the movies and made him more of a family man. I don't think that necessarily fits who he was in the comics, but it kind of works potentially for the interpretation they're going for here. I think he has been given the short end of the stick in a lot of the Marvel stuff so far, and I hope that changes. Personally, he is a really great character, at least I think anyway. A lot of people say, oh, he's lame, he hasn't got powers and stuff, but I think that's what makes him so interesting. He is one of the few heroes that doesn't have powers. He relies on a bow and arrow and loads of his skills, and I think that makes him more impressive. But I also love how funny he is and the humour that Jeremy brings to his performance. And I want to delve into more of the character. I'm really hoping in the next couple of Avengers films, I know we're getting promised more interesting stuff with Clint, but I'm hoping we get more past that. I'd love to see some solo stuff, potentially I think with the other Hawkeye, Kate Bishop. I really want to read those comics and see the dynamic between those two, and that would be cool to see on screen. So I'm hoping they keep him around. And he's a great character. I really love him because he's one of the few characters who does not have powers and relies on his skills and his weaponry. And he is personally one of my favourites. I can't wait to see more of him. At number 3, I put Black Widow, aka Natasha Romanoff. Now, I kept switching her around with my number 2 pick because I wasn't sure which one I loved the most, and I still am not sure, so she could have been at number 2. It's really hard to decide because she's a character I really love. I loved her as soon as she was introduced in Iron Man 2 because I love the complexity of her, that she went from essentially a villain to becoming a hero, but she's also got a lot of darkness in her past and a lot of red in her ledger. And I think that's what makes her particularly interesting, because she's one of these characters that there almost seems to be this, again, internal conflict within her. She has got potential to do some dark and schemeful things, but she also has potential for a lot of good as well. She can be one of these characters, maybe necessarily you don't know if you can completely trust her, at least in the beginning, and then you see her how she evolves. I think she's great. Plus she's a total badass. And again, she's one of the characters, much like Hawkeye, who doesn't necessarily have any fancy superpowers at all. She relies on her skills and experience with weapons. What I really loved particularly was her story arc in the Civil War, because I related to her so much. She didn't necessarily take a side, she just wanted the Avengers to stay together, and I think it's because she'd finally found somewhere to belong. But she's a really interesting character, and she's one of my favourite Marvel characters, and I had to include her on this list. So that's why I put her at number 3. At number 2, I put the King of Wakanda himself, Black Panther. I had to. I absolutely loved his solo movie. It was so good. I'd probably put it up there with some of my favourite Marvel films. It was that good. But I had to include him quite high on this list because as soon as I was introduced to him, I think it was in Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, I loved him. I thought, this is a really interesting character. Not just because he's a superhero, but because he's a king and he's royalty. And that was an interesting aspect to the character that made the solo film so interesting to watch. Because what I like about him is, yeah, he's kind of technically got superpowers because of the heart-shaped herb, but because of the technology aspects that come into it, which was some of the stuff about Wakanda I really loved. But what I love about the character, he's got such a kind of nobility to him, and he deals with like politics on different levels and stuff. And I think after these next 2 Avengers films, this makes him such a high candidate to become the next leader of the Avengers, because he has led the Avengers before in the comics that I know of. And I think him and Captain Marvel, when she's introduced, are gonna kind of become almost rise to the level of Iron Man and Captain America, and hopefully rise more in the public limelight as well. I love T'Challa, so I had to put him at number 2 on my list. At number 1, it is Captain America himself, Steve Rogers. I had to put him at number 1 on this list because he is my favourite old school Avenger. I think his trilogy was the most solid, especially his last 2 entries were so good. And what I've loved is how they've developed Captain America. They could have very easily made him this perfect macho soldier boy, but they didn't. They brought the humanity of who he is and him struggling to try and do the right thing, or at least do what he thinks is the right thing. He's just this small guy from Brooklyn who had like the biggest heart, and all he wants to do is help people, and that is something I really love about him. But even then, I think he does make mistakes. He does trip up. He might be a super soldier, but he's still human. And I really love that about him, and it was kind of hard not to side with him in Captain America Civil War, and he's Captain America. How could I not put him at number 1? So guys, that was a really fun little top 10 list of some of my favourite MCU Avengers. No doubt this list is going to change, particularly as they introduce new heroes, because if any of you know me, my favourite superhero is Captain Marvel, so she will be dominating the top of this list as soon as she is introduced, because even though I might nitpick at things that they might change, no doubt I am probably going to love her. So guys, I hope you enjoy this fun little list, and I hope you guys enjoy Infinity War. I can't wait to see it. But also guys, please bear in mind, this film is really big and it means a lot to a lot of people, and not everyone is essentially maybe going to get to go see it straight away on opening night, so don't be an asshole and do not spoil stuff for people. Be aware of tagging your spoilers on social media. If you're going to post something potentially on Tumblr or somewhere else, maybe put like a little note before, at least, even if your tagging system isn't perfect or doesn't necessarily work. You can warn them at the top before they start reading, saying there is spoilers for Infinity War here, stop. Because we all want to go in with no spoilers, and we all want to just experience this big film for what it is. Don't be that guy or girl or they or person or whoever you are who ruins it for somebody else by spoiling it. No spoilers. Thanos Demands Silence. So I hope you enjoyed this week's video guys. Don't forget to take care of yourselves. I'll see you next Sunday. Don't forget to subscribe, and I shall see you all soon. Bye!